If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue to bring you the great guests and amazing content that you've come to expect. Today's guest is here to discuss how jiu-jitsu fills the things we are missing in our lives, how it teaches us to problem solve under pressure and in real time, the evolution of the jiu-jitsu athlete, the importance of putting marbles in your student's jar, and more. Here's the RŌL Radio with the former ADCC West Coast Trials first place finisher and IBJJF Pans Champion, John Ccombs.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
Yeah, leave all that in.
Leave all that in? Okay,
For sure. For sure.
Leave all that in. The countdown oftentimes is like the point of anticipation. Should we go now? Not yet. No. Oh, yeah, hold on. We are 2, 1. John, welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. Give us a little bit of time of your busy schedule, busy life. How is everything on your side?
Things are going really well. Most recent competition, PGF, really great experience. One of the coolest grappling experiences I've ever had. But likewise, I got a really bad injury there. I tore my groin. So for the past 3 weeks, I've been pretty immobilized. And today I trained and worked with, we call him OG here at North River. He's this like 52-year-old guy from New York who moved down to Florida. And I train with him just about every day. So first time I've trained in probably about 3 weeks today. So I'm doing really good. Yeah, felt really good to get back out there.
I feel like every academy has OG. Like there is always this older guy who mops the floor with everybody, and there's like, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about your story is that, one, you come from the background of Elliot and Maul, which we both had both of them on the show.
Yeah.
The Eastern Training Center.
Yes, sir.
That's how you started. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir. Yeah. It was a product of Eastern Training Center Boulder. I obviously wrestled beforehand. That played a role in my overall development. And then in high school, I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but I got my blue belt and on through Maul and Elliott. And that was in about 2010.
How is it? Yeah. How does it feel to go through the ranks with under one umbrella? It seems almost unheard of these days. There is a lot of It's not, I should say it's less common, not unheard of, but it's less common than what it was 20 years ago. I feel like there is these conversions between academies, between gyms, between facility, between coaches and instructors take place more frequently than it did years ago. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I would agree. I mean, since I left in like 2020, right at the beginning of that, I've been flying around all over the place. But you are right. Like my early development, I mean, from 18 to 29, I was with the same school. And I enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of it had to do with the community of the people around me, like Elliot and Amal Kraft. I mean, they're truly amazing human beings that trained at that school and really played a deep role in my development. Yeah.
How did it all start? Do you remember your first day stepping on that?
Yeah, at Easton's, right? Yeah, I do. So I saw a bunch of their stickers on campus. So like what Amal was very skilled at doing was using the school, University of Colorado Boulder as a good recruitment ground. And so I saw their stickers, showed up, talked to their front desk lady, signed up for class, and just kind of knew immediately that I was going to do it. So I was like, all right, I got my card. All right, I'm ready to sign up. She's like, no. After class, we can talk about that. And I was like, okay. And then sat back down and talked about probably of my first couple practices there, the thing that stuck out the most, there was a black belt under Amal, like me, Brian Carlson, really great guy. And I remember he taught one of the first classes I took, and he remembered my name. And I remember when he like said my name, it was an 18-year-old kid or something. So like, that was like one of the first times. I mean, nowadays, of course, I was like, oh, John, come on. But like back then, I was like, just like somebody remember your name, that really stuck with me. So like through those first few classes.
Why do you think that was so important to you?
Well, so have you ever heard of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's just utilizing that strategy there. And I think it's something that's neglected in the world, just like how like your average run-of-the-mill guy is going to receive a compliment, once in a billion years, right? So, and like remembering somebody's first name is a compliment in some ways. It's like our favorite word in the English language. So that instance did stick out with me a lot.
Many underestimate that the simplicity of being the welcoming, the connection that being initiated by the instructor, right? Or by the coach or whoever, by the leader that they walk into. Oftentimes is the opposite was expected for the student or for the guest to kind of, I don't know, connect with the instructor versus what really should be happening is the instructor's responsibility to make that connection, right? And especially 100%. If this is your first day, it feels good. Is she coming back?
Is she scratching at the door?
No, my roommate G just came home. What up, Gino?
Hey, Gino.
Sorry.
Well, I think that Easton, if anybody doesn't know about him, what is it? 6 schools, maybe 8 even?
There might be 10 or 11.
Really? More now?
I have a lot of social skills that I should practice more. I think all of us have people we should call them way more often. And it's been like criminally too long since I've called them all. So I really got to reach out to him.
But I think there's a professionalism that they have that I think makes a big difference for the beginning student, whether they're a college wrestler or just a 45-year-old dude looking to get in shape. I think that professionalism is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, is what did it for you. Him knowing your name. I don't think people realize that that's professional.
Yeah. No, they laid a really beautiful education out for the people that were, willing to stick out with them. I took away jiu-jitsu, but a lot of other good habits from them as well. But it was really a great place to grow up. Really enjoyed having that community behind my back.
So you wrestle first, and then you stumble upon jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What are the big differences that you're noticing right away? I mean, such a similar yet very different sports, right from rules engagement, that's one, but the environment, even how the training is being performed. There are big differences between them. So as you step on the mat for the very first time, first week, first month, what are the big differences that you're noticing between what you're used to?
So you mean like what was my first experience with jiu-jitsu compared to what my first experience was with wrestling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's like my very first like grappling experience. I was actually at this crazy wrestling camp in Oh god, yeah, University of Minnesota, J-Rob 28-day intensive, like some like crazy stuff. I'm sure your listener, somebody out there knows what that was like. It was horrible. But I had a jiu-jitsu match with somebody, and I remember he like had me in a rear naked choke, and I busted out and flipped over. I got on his back. I got a choke. I choked him. Oh wow, that was a lot of fun. I really liked that. But it would be, I maybe did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but I really didn't fully start training until my second semester of college. That was when I started using January 12th, 2010.
And why are you starting jiu-jitsu versus continuing with the wrestling path?
I mean, the honest truth is I was like a nerdy high school kid and played the UFC video game a ton with my friends. And
and you knew jiu-jitsu already, right?
I mean, a very small amount. Like when I was playing that game, that was like towards the end of my high school, and wrestling was done. I was very unmotivated at that point. Actually, my last semester of high school was bad news. But played this dang video game and got inspired to want to compete in MMA, and through that, I figured I should start jiu-jitsu. And started jiu-jitsu, and over the course of maybe 3 to 5 years, did some training with Elevation Fight Team, and especially Drew Dober. I'm sure you guys know him. He helped me with some very early boxing, and then I had a few sparring sessions, and I was nah, I'm good on the MMA. And then
wait, I feel like you're leaving stuff out. What happened?
I just got the crap beat out of me in sparring, man. That's all. And the day that I got beat up, I forgot my mouthpiece, and I remember Brandon Thatch was there, and he was like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about it. Just take a paper towel and shove it in your mouth. It's the same thing." Okay.
I hope you didn't do it.
I did, yeah, dude. I got beat up by Elliot, beat the crap out of me first, then Neil Magny, then this guy Vinny Lopez, whose nickname is the Assault. It was a rough room, man. And in those rooms you sink or swim, and I just kind of drowned. I was like, I'm just gonna focus on jiu-jitsu, and it worked out pretty well. Like, the jiu-jitsu is great, so but MMA is tough. So I have a lot of respect for the people that do it professionally, especially at Elevation Fight Team and the guys over at High Altitude MMA. I have a lot of respect for those guys. It's not an easy thing they do.
I was about to say, do you think is an easy earned bread?
Bread?
Do you think there's easy earned money being an MMA fighter?
No. I mean, dude, you're gonna have to go through the AMIs, and I've heard it say you have to be perfect in MMA to make serious money. Like, even if you're somebody that's just very skilled at it, like if you my skill level in jiu-jitsu in the MMA community, like maybe I could have gotten to the UFC, but like, would I have gone on a winning? No. Like, and most guys never will. So I got sidetracked there a little bit with the comparisons. My bad, Thomas.
Oh no, you're fine. It's just a conversation. It's just going. That's typically what happens. And then Gary chimed in, and we completely dissect.
I'll ruin everything.
You've ruined the whole thing, So.
Sorry.
So wrestling, then you convert to jiu-jitsu. There were some MMA trials. You go through the turbulences there, right? And at some point, obviously, things don't go according to plan, and you reach deeper into the jiu-jitsu realm, and that's where you really stick around. What it was so appealing about jiu-jitsu? Why? Obviously, not getting punched in the face. That's one, but there has to be more. There has to be more than that. Yeah. What was so interesting? What drew you to jiu-jitsu?
Same thing that drew me to wrestling, high school through college, and just having a challenging activity that I was pretty skilled at, but had a lot to learn in it, and I really enjoyed it. And when I lost wrestling in high school, that made me there's like a hole in my life and didn't really know how to fill it, and so needed to fill it with something, and found jiu-jitsu. So since then it's kind of been one of the few meaningful things. Never really found anything in school that appealed to me much, and just always loved jiu-jitsu, kept doing it. Worked with Easton Training Center for about 4 or 5 years, and then stepped out on my own, and it's been great since then. Yeah.
You mentioned skilled many times in the last 15 minutes that we've been on. What do you mean by skilled? what kind of skill does jiu-jitsu provide?
I mean, problem solving, like real things at the speed of life, like being in the moment and having to overcome a task, and that's, we have to do a lot of that mentally in our lives, but there's very little of that physically that happens. And, none of us are getting like in an altercation with a predator or something, or like physically needing to defend ourselves. It's all this mental practice. And, I think our genes are looking for really hard circumstances. Like humans aren't supposed to be living these soft lives. Like we're supposed to be struggling and suffering and starving. And, if you make things too easy for somebody, things don't really operate right. So if life's too easy, you got to kind of fill in that hole with some martial arts and some hard training, and that'll stimulate the parts of you that are looking for that, and should lead to some pretty deep personal growth, which is what we're all going for with this martial arts journey. Right?
Do you think that life is too easy in general, as a general population today?
Oh yeah, of course, dude. I'm sitting here in this air-conditioned room when it's like 93 degrees outside. Like, yeah, like. There's nothing wrong with comfort, but there's a fine line between, overindulging and just enjoying something. And, I think as we've progressed, we've kind of lost touch with, getting outside and, enjoying ourselves, being one, out there with the sun and all that shenanigans. I try to incorporate as well. But,
do you think that's what jiu-jitsu gives us? This struggle, this solving problems, solving obstacles, being in these dangerous positions. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, jiu-jitsu is being comfortable and uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Like developing these feelings, managing these feelings, managing these situations, right?
Yeah. Being in horrible places. And I think one of the worst places I've ever been, you guys know Dan Manitou, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was training with him in New York in 2020 in the Blue Basement. And I remember he had me a mount, grabbed my head and pulled it into his chest. So my mouth. And I'm just standing there like, okay, this is really bad. It can't get much worse though, right? And then his sweat gets in my ears and I can't breathe. And I'm just standing, I panic tap and I was like, oh my God, that was the worst thing I've ever felt in my life. But there are things like that you get to run into daily through training. And I think, a lot of people out there, not just guys, people, need that struggle in their lives to, overcome some of the mental hurdles that are holding a lot of people back right now.
There's nothing more personal than having somebody's sweat dripping into your eyes or your mouth or
It's definitely not for everybody, but for those that want
this is how we make friends, right?
In this community, man. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. You can travel anywhere and have a group of folks that'll take you in, hang out with you. I've been blessed to get a lot of great experiences through the country. There's a lot of great people out there, and a lot of them do jiu-jitsu. You
travel quite a bit. What's the most memorable moments that you have experienced up to this point? I'm sure there's many of them. Does one stand out more than the other?
Yeah, I did this crazy trip to New Delhi in India. I had a friend of mine from my time at Easton's, this guy Sanjay Nambiar. His dad lives in New Delhi, but right now he's going to college in Perth. And at the time he was living there in India. And the city isn't New Delhi; it's something else. I really should. It's like right next to it. Like if you're in New York City, there's like a city right next to New York. It's also huge. That's kind of like the same thing. Forget the name of it, but yeah, it was wild. I taught at a school there for 3 days, and then explored around the city for a day. And really, I mean, I've heard it said a lot that like it's really important to go out, leave America, and observe some other countries and see what the lot is like for most people. And if you think about it, an odd like probably like 1 in 3 people on the planet are dirt poor, living in India or China, and like going through like horrible, unimaginable poverty in a way that's really difficult to imagine. You kind of got to see it. And obviously there are plenty of people in India doing great. Like there is some magnificent development there, but the level of what the average person was going through was pretty stark to see. It was something else. Especially it was so hot there, the garbage was catching on fire, so the air pollution was horrible. I mean, it was 115 degrees. It was really a stark experience. So if anything stands out a lot, going to India in May. I would not recommend that. I feel a little bad. Like I shouldn't be bad mouthing India. There's some beautiful, gorgeous things in India. I just need to make a trip there in like December. I think that would be a good time to go to India, and then I'll come back with better stories. But like, gratitude was probably the big thing that jumped out of that trip. Is like, wow, most people really are struggling out there, and I'm beyond blessed to have lived the life that I have and have the future that the beautiful future that I know that I have as well. So
so as you're walking through the town and you're seeing all of this, what's going through your mind as you're experiencing all this at that point of time?
Oh, so like when I'm just traveling through India?
Yeah.
My buddy's driving.
I've never been to India, so I hear what you're saying, but even visualizing some of that is difficult.
Yeah,
right?
all the lanes are imaginary. Like people driving there is just really an amazing experience, because you honking your horn to let people know where you are, and you just kind of go out in front of people, and like it's some crazy stuff, dude. Like I think most of the accidents on the planet happen in India for good reason. It's wild rules on the road there. If there's a cow on the road, people will stop for it.
Yeah.
Like they will wait and let the cow go by. The cows are everywhere. Another fact that they probably don't want me telling you is people collect cow turds because it's a really useful and free fuel. So you can use it to cook your food. So if you're very, poor India, it makes sense. So like people capture these cow patties and stack them. So it's wild to see it, dude. But it makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. Like, I mean, if you're really poor, I mean, it's good to have free fuel. So that part really, really stuck out to me. There were a lot of wild animals, like a lot of wild dogs and whatnot. And they were all struggling because it was like 115 degrees. But a lot of like the restaurants we went to were really nice. There was this beautiful hotel. We went on a bike tour, like a tuk-tuk or whatever. The guy was biked us around this market in New Delhi. That was some of the most jaw-dropping things I've ever seen. Like wild electric wiring, just people everywhere. This dude was taking a bike that was like 3 people wide into openings like this big, just saying he was making through, just coursing through, getting through people. Nothing, there was no one hitting any of it. It was wild, man. So,
we just had we had a solicitor, a woman come in. She worked for a credit card company, and she said that she was Indian, and she said that her cousin just called her and said it was 120 degrees. And this was last Friday. And she said the same thing you said. Don't go in May. If you ever go to India, don't go in May.
Yeah.
So I'll heed that advice.
It is. Yeah. The subcontinent's, it's tough there, man. And it's not likely to get much easier going forward, but, they are some of the toughest and youngest people on the planet, and hopefully they can figure it out.
So you come back to U.S. after that trip, and what's your impression?
It was a good time. Me and Sanjay both messed up our last day there. We let our guard down. So just as a warning to all people, that really you should never do this. We were served water at the restaurant, and we assumed it was bottled or purified and just drank it. And we both paid the price for it. And I paid a steeper price, He was fine in a few days. Took me 9 days till I was like somewhat okay.
Yeah. 9 days? That's brutal.
Charles Harriott was on, and the same thing happened to him. But unfortunately, he got on a plane to Australia. He didn't go home. So he suffered through all that on his way to Australia, and then had to teach while he was there. So, not for me. No.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're not going back to in the back. You're not going to India anytime soon.
I mean, if you go there at the right time of year, you drink only bottled water, you're gonna be fine. I deserved what I got, dude. I should have been we should have both been way smarter than that to trust any water brought to the table that wasn't out of a bottle. I'm against bottled water. I think you should drink tap water as much as you can, just in America, not not there. Yeah.
There are rules based on the region.
That's right. When we were at Sanjay's, he had a water purifier, this crazy system that, I guess you kind of have to have because there's no clean water that it can be delivered. Like the pipes are so and everything. But if you purified it there, I drank that water and I was fine. But it was the one time at the restaurant that I let my guard down. That's how I got sick.
I bet you won't forget that experience.
No. You gotta be watching your back when you're traveling. I mean, it was a great time. I also did this. I had a layover in Istanbul, Turkey for 14 hours, and boldly went out into the city. It was kind of funny. I bought a visa and thought it was going to be a big deal to get into Turkey. I was freaking out about it. And I remember I come up to this totally disinterested agent for Turkey. He's looking over my passport, looks at me, stamps something, I like show him my visa. He looks at it like, and pushes it away and gives me my passport. I'm like, okay. And then I just walk out. I had an amazing time. I took a taxi to downtown Istanbul, saw like the Hagia Sophia, the Blue Mosque, did this tour of like a museum. Then I went to a park. Then I got like 6 or 7 shots of espresso while I was doing this. It was nuts. Then I got Turkish kebabs. I did, the Turkish ice cream. You've seen that where like the guy like plays and you like trying to grab the cone. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I got that. It was great. It was great. Yeah. I even have a video on my phone of me doing that. Yeah. And then I went on this tour of the bay. So I was on a boat went on a tour. It was gorgeous, stunning. And then got back, grabbed the same taxi guy that took me. We chilled on our way back to the airport, hopped in there, and got on my flight to India. So it was pretty phenomenal adventure.
What's the jiu-jitsu culture like in India? You said you taught there for a few days while you were there. Is it burgeoning? Is it big already? What's it like?
When I was there, it was burgeoning. Like I was pretty surprised. It was quite the event, me going there. A bunch of folks flew in from Bangalore, which is a city to the south. And like I had about 30 folks show up for it. And it was good to see the community. It's definitely there and growing. But we'll see what the future has to bring. A lot of young people in India. That's the big advantage they have. Like I think average American is like 38. I think the average Indian is 26. So like they're very young people, and that gives them great ability to do well in jiu-jitsu. And I think they have been having some pretty strong successes with martial artists.
You travel quite a bit all over everywhere. I mean, we hear some of this, and so as you're experiencing these different diverse areas with different jiu-jitsu styles and different jiu-jitsu people doing different jiu-jitsu in different areas, do you think that at some point jiu-jitsu will be simply common all across everywhere?
I'd like to think so. That's up to folks like myself going off and starting good schools and expanding the culture one school at a time. So the better that we can do that, it'll continue to expand. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find a city worth its salt anywhere in America or Europe at this point that doesn't have a school. I think it has expanded pretty far. Obviously, I think there's way further to expand. It's been amazing to watch, especially the growth of the ADCCs from 2017 in Finland to Los Angeles and then to Vegas to what they're going to do now with T-Mobile Arena. I mean, it's this exponential growth that we've been a part of. It's really just something to behold. Yeah.
What do you think this is going to look like 10 years from now?
I mean, who knows? Like, I would love to see the growth continue. I think with Mo Jassim at the helm, that's going to lead to a lot. As long as we have good people working hard, like Seth Daniels, Sean Williams, folks that are doing the work on the ground and organizing these events, it'll continue to grow.
At the beginning, before we start recording, as you shared with us that you are converting into the teaching role more actively, right?
Yeah.
The last few years, you've kind of set back. That was, you put that kind of aside, and now you switching back to it. Why do you think it's so difficult for competitors to make a living? And it feels like, we shouldn't say it's difficult because today you can make money, but there's I think very small percentage of the individuals who actually make money, and everybody else, unfortunately, they don't make the cut, and if you will, to that level, right? Why do you think that semi-professional jiu-jitsu? Well, let's start there. Is it semi-professional, or are we professional jiu-jitsu at this point of time?
I mean, if you have your act together and you're on the instructional front and you've set up your seminars, 3 to 6 months in advance, and you're working with a good gym owner or own your own gym, then you're looking at significant ability to make a solid income. But a lot of us don't do the things that we need to be doing. Which primarily just comes down to private lessons. Like, if you're able to offer that type of a trade, you don't need many clients on a weekly basis to start making some decent money. Obviously, owning your own school would be preferable, but in lieu of that, working with a gym owner that you have respect for and feel trustworthy about. And so with Josh Leduc, my coach, that's whose gym I'm going to be teaching at. I do have that trust with him. So that's kind of what it takes. Outside of that, your seminars, can kind of pay for trips, but they shouldn't never be your primary source of income, because that stuff can come and go. It all depends on who shows up. And, moving into a probably more difficult economy, interest and inflation's probably not going anywhere for a long time. So got to make sure you're making the right decisions. What you got, which if you're a jiu-jitsu guy is maybe 15, 20 of us are doing really good, but the rest of us scraping by, bro, doing what you got to do.
Why do you think it's so difficult for the competitors to convert into these roles that you're explaining, like owning an academy or teaching somewhere? I mean, there's a lot of good guys who actually do good jiu-jitsu. Some of them are even famous.
Yeah.
Some of them make a lot of good money.
Yeah.
Why is that conversion into that leadership role so difficult?
I mean, you have to be willing to either get a loan or find some wealthy partner that's willing to put money on the line for you. And that's a big, scary step that holds a lot of people back. Like there's this idea in biology of activation energy, like the ability to start an action potential. Like you need a certain amount of energy for it to actually take off. And most guys, especially nowadays with, how challenging the financial markets are, like you could have owned a house 5 years ago with 70 grand. Now it's like 125 is what you need for it. So like your dollar goes way, way less far. And there's a ceiling on how much you can make as an athlete, because a lot of it's, time spent teaching lessons, and there's a limit to how many you can teach. So, it makes sense that it's difficult to accumulate the capital. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you're good, you will find somebody in this economy that will be, oh yeah, you need 100 grand, here you go. You want another 20? Oh, you have a good idea. Like there are plenty of guys out there that are looking for good investments that can help you. Maybe not just by giving you money, but by leading you in the right direction.
And that sets us for success as far as the career, because that's what we are talking about, right? Setting yourself from this active competitor situation into a career-like environment where you can have sustainable income, and you can continue doing what you're doing while sharing the expertise that you have built over the years, right?
Yeah.
How do you find? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, how do you, as a professional athlete, how do you find balance in that? Because it seems like on any sport, the true professional, the high level, that's their job, is to be that athlete, right? And you're trying to find a balance of being that athlete and being an instructor. You have to make your income somewhere else. How do you find that balance?
It's very challenging. Like I've worked as a personal trainer for about 6 months in 2023, and made some money doing it. But the amount of time that I was putting in versus what I was getting out of it just ends weren't meeting up. And the 6 months after, I did get way better. Like West Coast Trials did go very well for me. Unfortunately, injured at the moment, but I definitely feel that it would make the most sense as a jiu-jitsu athlete to make a majority of your income from jiu-jitsu rather than having a secondary source where sure you're making money on that, but are you really getting better as a jiu-jitsu athlete? I did learn some good stuff from working as a personal trainer, but it got to a point where it was just diminishing returns, and really felt that I needed to focus on my art.
Well, it's like a point of distraction in a sense too, right? If you're doing something else, you're really not investing into the area which should be bringing you the biggest focus, right? I mean, even though they are both fitness, they are very different environments, being personal trainer versus jiu-jitsu instructor, right?
Yeah, and I could be a great personal trainer, but shit, I am one of like the top 30, 35, 40 guys at 170. Like, had I put my time a little differently over the past 5 years, who knows, what we'd be looking at. But I made the choices I did, happy with them, and, looking to make the best possible choices I can moving forward.
Speaking of choices, do you ever think about regrets? Do you ever think about that some things could have gone differently, better, worse? I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Plenty of them, man. That's part of it. You live boldly, you're going to make mistakes. Made a lot of them.
What's the one that sticks out the most? I'm going to drag this out of you.
I don't know. Maybe we could jump to number 6 or 7 on the list. My top 5 to 10 probably wouldn't shine me in a good light. But if we get down low enough, I can find a few petty stories that will shine me in a good light. But
All right, let's
Most of it
pivot.
is tough.
Let's pivot this different way. What's the biggest lesson that you learned as all of this is unfolding, and obviously your competition is shining, and now you're
Yeah.
looking into something a little bit more tangible?
Yeah. Like what I've learned as a competitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to ensure that you're spending the limited amount of time that you have well, because no matter how skillful you may be, there's a certain time window you can exploit this, and spend what time you have wisely. It could all just be taken away in a moment, and if you do want to be great, TikTok, you got to put up or shut up in this world.
So many students out there desire to compete, maybe not on the level that you have done, or they might not even have desire to be a professional athlete, but they do want to compete. Would the same rule suggestion apply to them? Listen, time is running out, stay focused, really grind this and chase the goal that you have?
No, man. I think your average individual should compete for the personal benefits that will derive from it. But I don't think there's a time horizon for your average athlete. Like, I think you will get just as much out of competing at jiu-jitsu at 25, 35, 45, or 55, because you'll be fighting guys your own age. But if you really do want to be a successful competitor, your physical body has a limit and your mind has a limit. And by limit, I mean it peaks at a certain point. And your physical peak is about 32. Your mental peak is 40. So they kind of intersect at a certain point. And it's right about like 33, 34 where I'm at right now. And it's like,
so you're at your peak.
You shut up. No, I'm not. I'm the
it's all downhill from here, man.
No, I'm the the outlier. Yeah.
I say I knew John when.
Yeah. So there's a certain peak that comes, and if you want to be a really successful athlete, there's some really amazing examples of people doing it at a just shockingly young age, like Cade Rulatolo, Jet Thompson, what's his name? Oh my gosh, Michael Sains. He's another great example. Like, kid's 18, but a freaking killer. And then Mika Gavao, and there are plenty of examples of like these young kids coming up and really getting it right off the bat. So
well, that's the interesting part behind all of this. If we look at jiu-jitsu 10 years ago, average quote unquote successful competitor was probably in their mid to late 20s, or even older, like in their 30s, right? The experience really played a significant role. Versus today, you have these 18, 19-year-olds who really put it up there, right? So does age really play a difference today?
I think what it shows is over the past 5 years, there's been a pretty stark change in the level of jiu-jitsu, just in terms of like the level of average knowledge has changed at a remarkable pace over the past 5 years. And if you look at the 10 years that precede it, like your average room probably changed about as much over 10 years as they did in like a year or two of the past 5. Like, there have been unimaginable changes in the sport. And if you have been on top of those changes and following them well, you can create athletes that are likewise going to be exceptional. And I think you're seeing that throughout the sport right now.
Why do you think those changes, those rapid changes, are taking place? Why is this evolution really unfolding right now?
With the instructionals, like not just John Danaher. Obviously there have been plenty of people playing a role in that, but he's probably the one people buy the most. In terms of just there's a high level of information out there, and the only barrier to it is money. If you go back 5 to 10 years ago, there was some stuff, like I think that was John's systems were like started to be dropped in 2018. So like that was about when this all started. But up until that point, dude, like techniques were weird. They're like guarded secrets, and like no one really wanted to talk too much about what they had, and everyone was like, oh, all right, this is some secret stuff. I learned this from such and such. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, show me it, bud. But that's way rarer nowadays because of the sea of information that we're in.
So is this evolution a good thing, or now there's no secrets, which means there's no surprises. There's everything is kind of wide open.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just leading to the creation of a lot higher, a much higher level skill of athlete. Because any athlete that's looking at the competitive scene right now understands that, like, you need to be way better to even have a chance nowadays. Like, there's just too many guys that are, just as good as anybody else in the division. And, it's tough to stand out. You know, got to be exceptional. Like, you know, Andrew Tackett-esque, go out there and dominate that shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did well recently. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So how do we maneuver through all of this? You need to be above and beyond. You need to be physically, obviously, deliver physical components. You know, you need to take care of yourself. There, you were talking about the mental stimulation. You got to be jiu-jitsu smart. You know, all that is kind of building this little system around yourself, right? And I think what used to be that I trained by myself and my coach or instructors kind of helped me. Now this is converting into almost a professional sport where we have nutritionists, we have personal trainers, we have physical, you know, whatever, you know, people helping us with these different areas for us to maximize the return. Do you feel the same way, that this is becoming a small production?
Yeah. I mean, there's money in the sport now. Athletes can afford to, you know, spend on folks that can really help them out, and, you know, it's a great thing to see. You know, hopefully we can all keep growing from here, and I feel confident that we will. You know, people seem to be very interested in jiu-jitsu, and, you know, hopefully that interest won't go away. I mean, I think ONE FC is one of the most watched sports organizations on the planet.
So what's next for you? What's your plan?
Potentially I'd like to open up a school, but you know, I'm not entirely sure what the best strategy next is for me. You know, like we're saying, my next 3 years are probably what I have to spend competitively. So, you know, could start up a gym right now, but it might be selling myself a little short, like maybe 3 more years of just focusing on myself as an athlete and then starting up. But that's something I got to have some internal dialogues, you know, talk to my parents, talk to folks in my life, and, you know, make sure that I make the right call, because, you know, dedicated every one of the 33 years I've had up to this point to success and competition, and definitely feel I've come up short the past 5 years. You know,
what makes you think the next 3 years will be the pivotal points for you?
So the way I kind of see it is, you know, there's like a trial in a year and a half, and then a trial in 2 years, just about that time. And I feel like that's kind of like the golden peak for me, because there are just so many like 10 and 9 and 11-year-olds that are coming up that are just going to be fucking phenoms. Like they're like, it's not like the kids we're seeing right now, it's going to stop and they're going to be, no, there's even crazier stuff coming down the pipe. It's a wild time to do the sport. So I would anticipate 5 years from now, I don't think many guys my age will be competitive, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like longevity stuff out there that'll enhance us moving forward. But I think the average age is going to keep getting younger, and if you want to survive, you got to find some crazy niches to exploit. Yeah.
Listen, some are already exploiting things. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So you think overall the average competition age is going to go down versus
Most
up?
likely. Huh? Most likely. I mean, that's certainly been the case the past 5 years. Like if you go to ADCC 2017 or 2019, you know, there were a few young athletes, but it wasn't like, I think it's mainly the younger divisions that have this insane tilt towards, you know, like younger guys like Diego Reyes and like the champ from '66.
What's going on in the background?
Chino. Chino's doing the dishes.
Yeah, sorry guys.
You're fine. We didn't know if he was fighting somebody.
He's mixing up dog food, which I've actually never seen him do before.
Well, there's a first, right?
Looks really good. Actually, looks really good. Yeah. These dogs here eat good, man. There's some good dogs, but they're also very distracted dogs right now.
So we talked about teaching a little bit, and you just mentioned that there is a desire to open your own place, teach, be involved from a leadership perspective, and pass on some of the knowledge. Do you feel that teaching is easy?
No. I feel it's one of the more challenging things you can engage in.
Why so?
So I mean, like the main thing you can do to be, because like there are like different levels of instruction, and I mean most people just kind of show up and teach, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to like do it right, like we were talking about with like experience with Brian Carlson, like you need to engage with these people. You need to open yourself up socially and learn things about them. You know, generate a relationship with them, and if you're able to do that with enough members of the community, you can grow the community, and that's ultimately the goal. And I think there's less social capital you need to spend with an adults program than a kids program. And the reason for that is in a kids program, to do it right, like you don't just need to know this kid. you need to know the kid's name. You need to go where he goes to school. You need to know both of his parents' names. You need to know something about the parents. And like suddenly this one kid leads to like 10 bits of information. And then you multiply that kid by 50. And it's like, whoa, there's a lot of things that I need to have in order here to do this right. Oh,
Yeah.
I can do it wrong real easy. You bet your bottom dollar I can do it wrong easy. But to do it right takes a lot. So
well, and what's interesting about all of this is that while the kid needs to have fun and needs to grow, the parent is the one who's paying for it. So, right. So you have to convince both of them. Now you're splitting yourself in half, essentially, while you're teaching one, you're engaging with the other one. You think teaching kids is harder than adults?
Yes.
Why? Kids are so easy.
Like I said, there's more information that you have to know to do it right.
What about teaching itself? What about just teaching, pure jiu-jitsu teaching?
Like
you think
the
it's
act
harder?
Of just like being on the mat with them?
Yeah.
Probably way easier with kids than adults. Like,
why do you say that? Why adults are so?
They're either going to do what you tell them to, or they're just going to ignore you and be a problem. Whereas with adults, like, they can actually connive behind your back. Kind of.
I think so I've done a little bit of teaching with adults, like filling in here and there when somebody couldn't do it, and then taught the kids a ton. And I think personally, you're right. Teaching the kids is you said easier, right? I think it is a little easier. They're either they get it or they don't, and you don't have to. You're not obligated, I don't think, to make the ones who don't get it. Like they're kids. It's going to happen over time. Where with an adult, if they're not getting it, a lot of times the focus is on you, right? You can't. You don't have that excuse as a kid. So, I agree 100%. And there you go.
Just what comes once you close out class and start saying goodbye. Oh, goodbye, Mr. Stevens. Oh, well, Mrs. John. Oh, that's when it starts getting difficult at that point. But that's the important part, and that's why you got to find somebody that enjoys doing that type of stuff. And
is that for everybody?
No, but for those of us that it isn't for, you got to find a way to fake it till you make it. And
is that the recipe? Is that the recipe? Fake it until you make it?
I mean, so I suppose I should say you execute on a system on the way you think should be done best, and learn what you can from it, and take away what you're doing well and doing wrong, and adapt and move forward. But you can expect to make a few mistakes, get some names wrong. Nothing wrong with that. Just learn from them, ask them what their name is, and remember it better next time.
Just
and
piss off some people and
what the hell? There's thousands of parents in this area. One of them's not that. No. We got to know his name.
I hate getting the parents' names wrong. The kids' names is even worse because the kids call you out on it. Right in front of all the other kids. They're like, "Why'd you call me Timmy? My name is Tom," and you're like. And that's it. It's like the needle's off the record. The class is over at that point. You can't get them back. So.
Yeah. Well, there's this idea when you're coaching kids of putting marbles in their jar. Like if you can remember their name or give them a compliment or, a little fist bump, that's like a marble in their jar. And then when they're doing something wrong and you come down on them, they'll actually have some sense of trust in you, and you can do that. But like, if there are no marbles in that jar and you try to come down on somebody, they're going to completely not respond well to that.
Yeah,
I like those marbles in the jar.
Marbles, I'm writing that down.
Marbles in the jar. I like that. Look at that.
We always do a takeaway, right? Yeah. So my takeaway is marbles in the jar. So
there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. We touched on a lot of stuff. Next 3 years is going to be pivotal for you from a competition perspective, and then the opportunity of this teaching stuff is going to start surfacing for you. How are you transitioning between those two? What's your plan? Do you have one? Are you developing one? I mean, 3 years, that's going to fly by.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think probably the most important thing is adapting the sleep cycle to it. Because, classes start at 7:30, they'll get out later. So that's going to be something that I'll need to change in my my schedule. So probably sleeping into like 7 rather than 6:30, things of that nature. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I'll need to shift around. And then outside of that, just making sure that I'm taking notes as I move forward, keeping track of my curriculum, and making the appropriate adjustments, and making sure that I deliver a high quality product to my employer, and do my best to grow the classes to their maximum extent possible.
How do you define success in a situation like this? Is it
Oh,
by
this one,
amount of
it's
students?
cold numbers, bro. Like, all right, John, you've
You're
been
not even
teaching-
beating around the bush. It's all about Benjamins right there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't pay somebody to do something for free, like you pay somebody for value. And I strongly believe that I will provide a strong reason for people to make a drive to come out and train. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:30 at North River. I'll be teaching, and I expect to make a return. I know what he's going to be paying me, and I have a pretty good idea of what I can return. And I think I can return a far larger than what the investment is on his portion. That is the goal as an instructor. So obviously it's me teaching for an hour, but it's more than that as an instructor. It would mean just taking greater interest in the students. Outside of the there are probably like 6 dudes that I just beat up on a consistent basis, and so I'm good friends with them. But opening up a bit more to the rest of the students in the academy, because I probably miss 80% of the students because they mostly train at night. They don't usually make it to that 11 a.m. session that I'm at every day. So they train at different times. So more engagement with the students and preparing myself to open up for that social capital expenditure that I'm about to have to do, which I'm looking forward to.
Is that difficult for you?
No, but I do have to prepare for it and understand what I'm going to be going through so that I do it well. It's we're actors on a stage when you step out there to teach, and you just need to make sure that you're in the best mental stage possible to provide as great of a performance as you can, understanding that perfection is just something to strive towards. You do it as best you can, learn from it, and try to deliver better next time.
You just said something interesting. Actors on stage, and
Mm-hmm.
many don't view it that way. Many show up to classes and they just shoot off the hip. They kind of teach whatever it is. What you are describing, which I completely agree. There is a certain way of being prepared. That's one. Two, it is a performance in a sense, isn't it? I mean, we do have to stimulate people. Listen, there's instructors like I remember, like in my mind, right off the top of my head, there's instructors that they are funny, they are good, they are engaging, they're like, you remember them. And there are others you're like, oh my God, that was like nails on the chalkboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's their secret recipe? What's the secret sauce for being amazing instructor?
It's very complicated, outside of, just engaging with the audience that you have before you, proper speaking habits, making sure you're at the right volume, and pointing out the appropriate directions, maintaining eye contact intermittently with the audience, like trying to find other people that you're talking to. So you're speaking to the crowd, not just to one person, making sure that the demonstrations are appropriate, that you've practiced your art and you've done this many times. You feel extremely confident with what you're showing is going to add value to their jiu-jitsu. And then, observing everything and changing very little. Like you don't want to you did this wrong, do that, but like watch, try to observe after you let them go and do the technique. Like, what are some mistakes people are making? How could you improve this process for your students? So like taking more of an observational approach rather than just, this is the set of techniques, we're doing it, and if you do it wrong, screw you. And if you have questions, ask your partner. That's probably not the best way to operate. Yeah.
So why so many don't do any of this?
What do you mean? Why do so many people do
why so many people are bad instructors? I mean, not like you run. I don't know. Like I feel like there are a lot of, we all couldn't get better when it comes to being an instructor, and some need more work than others. But I do feel that some completely ignore the fact of getting better. Are you leaving?
No, I got to plug
like,
this thing
screw
in.
This. You're like, this guy not making any points. I'm out of here. I'm gone.
Okay, cool. No. My laptop was about to kick out on us, but now it's charging. I've been having issues with it, but I think we're good to go. Yeah, sorry. Okay, now I'm plugged in and ready. Sorry for that.
That's all right. So what are you getting at, Thomas? Why don't people want to be better?
Yeah. Why instructors in general, they don't work on being a better instructor? I think there's like this notion in jiu-jitsu in general. If you do jiu-jitsu well, you can be a great instructor. And they don't put work into becoming better while they put all this work to learn jiu-jitsu. What do you think about this, John?
I mean, I guess I just don't know that many instructors that don't take it seriously. I mean, I'm sure that many do exist out there. I mean, I have a good friend of mine that would fit in this category. And I just think, it's an easy thing to do for a month or 3 months, 6 months, or like 5 years even, really push in that envelope to really providing a higher quality product than what you're probably able to do. Excuse me. And eventually you just kind of get sick of it and you're like, you know what, this is making money. It's doing all right as it is. And I'm just going to keep doing it as it is because that's the way I did it last year. And sometimes that can just keep rocking forward. And, people move forward with their school for 10 years and they haven't gained any students because every student they gain, they lose one in response. And so they're 10 years forward and everything's more expensive, but they're not making any more money. They're like, what the hell? And it's like, well, there are certain ways to do this right and there are ways to do it wrong. And, if you're showing up and don't have an idea of what you're going to teach, and that happens all the time, people are going to see through your crap and the loyal people will stay, but it's not about the loyal people. It's about those random white belts that show up to class once a week. You want to be wrangling them in too. And that's how you grow the community, by getting in as many people as possible. And, so I think some people just kind of get a little sick of it all and just give a half-ass effort because that's the easy thing to do. That's kind of how I've treated my competition the past 5 years. I've been really focused at some points and half-assed at others. And, who am I to judge other people, man? Like if there's an owner out there who just wants to do it halfway, that's his prerogative, his business. I'm not really too many. I think of a few, but a lot of the gym owners I do know are very eccentric, driven, somewhat crazy individuals.
Well, and the sport is growing too, and the business of martial arts is growing too. So we all getting smarter about all of this, and really they're putting a lot of weight on value versus other things, and what is being offered, and how do you turn this into a profitable business, not just a club to hang out and roll a couple of times. I think these are important points as all of this is happening. John, we've been almost an hour at this, so slowly we're going to start wrapping this up. But before we do so, we have a question for you from our previous guest. Now, he didn't know that you're going to be answering it, so think of it as question and blind. Gary's going to take a lead on this.
Yeah, so this is from Pauline Bach, and she wants to know, what is one thing you wish you started sooner in jiu-jitsu?
One thing I wish I had started sooner in jiu-jitsu. Oh man, too many things I could say to that. Probably, so I'll take one like technical and then one like strength conditioning thing.
Sure.
So the technical thing would be like centerline switch, like the idea in a guillotine of like how you get the strangle hand higher. I think that was one of the more eye-opening details for me. As a guillotine guy, like I didn't really quite understand what I was doing, so that part opened up my game a lot in terms of what the goal is on a guillotine. And then strength conditioning wise would be the stuff called foundation training, which I feel has helped do a lot to address my lower back pain. That and then just hanging from a pull-up bar, like just plain old hanging. I think those two things have really helped alleviate my lower back pain. And I think a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes struggle with that because if you're training 3 times a day and sitting in a car driving to practice, you're not getting a lot of like extension-based work. Like everything's all flexion-based for hours. Like you're in your car and just flex the whole time, and it's really not a good place to be. So foundation training can help correct that and keep your body open and upright. And meditation along the same line, like usually fairly consistent. I haven't been, but it's definitely I'm looking to restart that back up.
Why do you think that's so important?
So there's this funny song where there's like a dude, I think it was Alan Watts or something, talking about how important it is to give yourself time to not think about anything. And it sounds like kind of a silly thing, but then you think about modern life and how from every moment, from the second your big toe hits the floor, there's some crisis you got to address or some crazy thing going on in your life or politics, all this bull just melding around in here. And from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, a lot of us never have any time where we just shut that off. and meditation provides that for you. Just a chance to shut everything down, and I think it's important. I'm sure back in the day, there's a lot more peaceful. But if you're just out in the wild, there are times to just enjoy nature and peace and quiet, and that's a lot of what we're supposed to be doing. But nowadays, everything's super bright and loud and constant stimulation. And I think it's more important now than ever to just give yourselves time where you're not stimulated and totally at relaxed and peace.
Can you reach that state, or are you just trying to get closer to it?
I can't. Well, I think it's funny, and it's like something you guys can try right now. Like if you try to hold your palms up and just hold them on your lap, see how long you can actually do that. And you're gonna find if you try to do this for more than 2 minutes, you're gonna get really achy and it hurts because your muscles aren't used to doing this. So that part I've struggled with a lot, during meditation, just holding the palms up. But I've gotten to the point where I can more or less hold that. But that's after about 2 years of practice. So
it is hard. I'm if I'm in a yoga class, the instructor will often talk about you're not, in that class environment, you're not going to get there. So she's just just slow it down as much as you can, clear as much out as you can, focus on what you're doing. Is that the goal, just to focus on what you're doing? Or do you think there is that state beyond that when you meditate?
So there are meditations where you're imagining things, but the way that I've do it and describe it is trying to so you set up, cross-legged, hands on the shoulders back, and then you lightly tilt the head up, and you're just trying to look through up that way, just resting here like that. So that's the pose that I take when I meditate.
And just see what happens.
Yep, just go there, not trying to think about much anything at all. And I listened to a track by this guy, Sangudu, which is 15-ish minutes, and then done with it. On to the next thing of my day.
Nice. And that gives you what? What happens the rest of the day, I guess, is my question.
Just more focused. But I guess the goal that this Sangudu guy would say is trying to bring the meditative state into your life in general, taking a clear, conscious, very thoughtful approach to any problem that you run into, not just trying to rush through it. And that's something, giving yourself a break from the overstimulation of modern life is, very, very important. So that when you do approach problems, you're taking the appropriate mindset with them. I think the meditative state is probably the best way to handle, especially in a jiu-jitsu situation. You have all these different things you can reach for, but only one of them is probably going to do you any good. Which one is it? And, make sure you choose wisely, because, you leave something hanging. Nowadays, people are going to catch you. You can't make no mistakes. Not today. Everything's got to be perfect.
Many consider jiu-jitsu flowing as part of, or as a sense of meditation. Do you find yourself in that mental state when you're flowing from position to position?
If you have the right training partners, yeah. Especially with Josh, we've been trying to implement a lot more playing rather than just live training. And I think we should be doing, if anything, even more of that. I think it's really a useful skill and something that, during my days with Easton's, Amal and Elliot are old school guys, man. So we trained like old school. We would, it would be a lot of live training. And I would go to classes too, but it'd be 45 minutes of instruction compared to probably 3 hours of training on an average day for me. So, just way more live training, which was cool, made me tough. But, nowadays with all the information that's out there, you can really do things a little differently. And as there are athletes showing, you can get really good really fast if you're studying the right stuff.
There's no doubt that we all getting smart about this, and jiu-jitsu continues evolving, and only time will show where this is all going. But it's such an interesting time to be part of all this, witnessing it to continue growing and unfolding as it has been and as it will in the near future. John, if anybody wants to connect with you, anybody wants to reach out to you, are you available on social media? Are you available on where are you at? How do we get to you?
At Ccombs Jiu-Jitsu on Instagram. And then if you really want to get in touch with me, my email, johntcombs175. It's a good place to reach me as well. And probably not going to give out my cell, but if you want to DM me,
cell on Social Security, the full stack.
You got to do it like everyone else and pay the hacker. And go for it.
That's right. Everybody needs to make a buck, right? Everybody wants a piece of pie. All right, John. thanks for hanging out with us for our last hour or so. What an amazing story. What a lot of thoughts, deep thoughts, and I appreciate you sharing your philosophy. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing the next 3 years, because it seems like that's going to be the pivotal point in your life. Well, a lot of things might be changing. A lot of growth will be, you will be experiencing a lot of growth, and we'll see what the next 3 years bring.
Thank you. I agree,
Gary?
Tom. Very much.
Continued success. Thanks for the marbles in the jar. I think we're going to go talk about that. I do like that a lot. So, lots of little nuggets here today. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Heck yeah, Gary, thank you very much. This was great. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, peace.
That's Larry.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.